His story title is Haunted by the Light. Give it up for Brian Dodd.
I'll first start by saying I'm fighting off a cold, so if a lung comes flying out of my mouth, that is not part of the show.
I know, but sitting in front of you.
I want to tell you about the most harrowing experience that I've ever had with the most evil of all Halloween creatures. I'm not talking about a black cat or an owl or a wolf. I'm talking about finches. Songbirds of death, as they call them. And here's the story. A number of years ago, a friend of mine lived in Atlanta, but he had a home, let's say, in Tennessee. And he kept saying, oh, you got to come to visit me, come visit me. I'm like, no, because he's one of those friends that you don't really want to brag about being friends with him because he's one of those friends. You know the type that you wish all your friends go, why are you friends with him? Well, that's what I have here. And I'm like, I don't know. So he kept asking me to come to Tennessee. And so finally I decided, okay, I'm there on business. I'll go a day early and get this out of the way. So I drive down. I'm going to adjust this just a hair. There we go. So I drive down the big day of, get to his house. And I heard a lot about this house. He'd been there for 3 years. And I pulled up to the house, and it is immaculate. It is a beautiful house. It was designed by a student of Frank Lloyd Wright. It's a wonderful house. I walk in. It's the same way inside. I mean, there's not a spot of dirt anywhere. There are beautiful carpet, rugs, artwork, furniture. I mean, it's so beautiful. I went my back bedroom into the guest bedroom. I set my stuff down and I look. And I look at the bed and I'm like, gosh, these sheets are like brand new. And he looked at me and smiled and he goes, they are. You're my first guest. Now, this is a guy who I knew his mother lived by. And this guy at the time was in his 40s. And so he didn't live with his mom. But he sort of lived with his mom, because I knew she lived close by. So I'm like, okay, that's great. So we walk around the house looking at it, and I walk into the kitchen, and I'm nosy. So I go and I look in the refrigerator, and it's a beautiful refrigerator, as I mentioned, and I open it up, and there are 3 things. A bag of caramels, about 6 bottles of water, and an open can of pork and beans. So that's the second thing, warns me, go now. But no, so we're talking, he goes, hey, you ready to get over? It's 5 o'clock, we got to eat because my mom's got dinner ready. I'm like, sure. So go with me here. He goes, do we want to walk? I said, do we want to walk over? He goes, no, we'll drive. Now let me give you a visual aid. Imagine this is a square right here. Here is his house. We get in the car, we back up 10 feet, we go into the road, we drive about 76 feet. We turn north, drive about 60 feet, turn right into his mother's driveway. The 2 houses are about 100 yards apart. A 44-second walk, but a 3-minute drive. Now, I walk into the house and I walk into the dark room of the kitchen, and the first thing I notice is something kind of buzzed me. I'm looking around, I take another step, and all of a sudden, another thing went by, and it actually caught me on the face that time. I'm like, what was that? About that time, I hear, Johnny, are y'all here? So he's like, yeah, come on in and meet my mom. So I walk into this living room, and it's like 15 by 30 feet. And on one end are 2 chairs where mom and he would sit. On the other end is a television set, playing Wheel of Fortune. But the problem with is there's about 110 decibels, so no one can really hear what's going on because the Wheel of Fortune's so loud. And I'm like, okay, I need to leave now. But that's not the weird part. Then I look around and I see around the floor and everywhere little black and white droppings of chalk. And that's when I realized, oh my gosh, there are finches flying freely throughout this house. There's not a cage in sight, just finches. So he says, come on in, sit down. I'm like, okay, where? And I'm thinking, gosh, I really wish I had something to put across right here, because I'm looking for a spot to sit that will not imply crunching down into something foul and disgusting, but no. And again, there's a voice inside of my head going, leave now, leave now. No. So I sit down, mom comes over and says, hey, I've got dinner ready to go, that's great. So she brings out the first appetizer, and I notice it's soup. And it's a little trick here. If you're making soup and it's boiling, that's not really a good time to pour it into the pot that you're going to hand to someone and place in their hands. So she puts the soup in my hands, ow, and it burns. So I immediately drop it safely between my legs, ow, my legs. I grab it quickly and I get ready to sit on the floor. When I look at the floor, no way. I will admire it or adhere to the 5-second rule. Not in this house. So I quickly grabbed it up, and the miracle thing about the human body is in that time my legs bunched up enough of the cushion to build a little small cushion table in between my legs, so I sleep right there. And I'm eating, and it's really, really hot, so it's a twofold burn, because I'm burning my tongue, while at the same time I'm burning my hand, because I'm trying to keep the poop out of my soup. So finally I finished the soup. Now it's time for the main meal. I told you this is weird. I'm not making this up. So Mom comes out there, and remember, this guy's in his 40s, and he lives at home with his mom. Not that there's anything wrong with that. So she walks over to him, hands him his plate, comes over to me, hands me my plate, and there's a big potato and a steak. Your average lovely dinner. Now the potato's broken open, and there's like a half a stick of butter just sticking out of it. And I heard my veins go, yeah, I know. We'll put the butter over. And then there's the steak. And I look at her and I look at him. And I look at her and she looks at me. And she smiles and she goes, well, ever since Johnny was little, I've always cut his steak up. So I thought I'd cut your steak up. Thank you, Shad. I'm going to speak to you every night. And yeah, she cuts up my steak and eats the steak. And, or hands me my steak and ate the steak. So there's dinner. It's getting late. It's like 8. And it's time to go home, call it a night. And she goes, are you ready? And he's like, yeah. She jumps up and goes into the kitchen, turns off the light. She comes in the living room and turns off the light. Meanwhile, he turns off the TV. We're now sitting in the dark, and all I hear is... I'm like, I'm going to get eaten alive. My head's going to be on a platter. My head's going to be on a stick. I don't know how. All I can hope is that I die cool enough that all my friends find out, because they'll have a great story to tell. So about that time, she starts walking back to the back of the house, and every time she walks by a room, she turns off into the light. So it's getting darker and darker and darker, and meanwhile, the birds are going nuts, and I'm like, oh, this is not good. This is not good. She gets to the back of the house, she goes, are you ready? He goes, yes, Mother. And at that moment, she turns on a light in the back of the house, and she goes, birdie bye-bye, birdie bye-bye. And suddenly, like a swarm of locusts, man, every fish flies back to the back of the house. Goes straight in there, she shuts the door, and I'm just sitting there. I just go back there and look. So I walk back there, look, and instead of, most people have a normal bedroom door. Is that me? I'm over. Can I make this trick? Oh, quickly. So I walk back, there's a bedroom door, and instead of a door, it's a screen door. And I counted 48 finches, and that's why to this day, finches haunt me.